is good, everybody? Welcome into the Midstate 48, driven by Miracle Auto Group. We are getting ready for week number 10 of high school football in Middle Tennessee. Chris Brooks along for the ride with you guys again for another week of some high school football talk, as well as these guys right here. Scott Burton and Cam Reed. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. Every time I hear that theme song, I want to air guitar it,
I keep you off camera for that. You can go ham.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, judging by the weather outside, it is that time of year. We're getting close to the playoffs and getting colder and getting tighter in a lot of places. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Boy, off the rails within the first minute.
No. I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on by a thread here. I'm getting older. The muscles are getting tighter, so it's including this one apparently. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's bring it back in. I won't bring it back in. Anywho, week 10, back to a full slate of games this week after most of the teams had their fall break last week. So got a lot to talk about in this show, and I mean a lot because we had some things that happened last week that need to be discussed. A couple of big deals. The classification just got dropped for the next 2 years. I have a chat with Ensworth head coach Roc Batten about their Thursday night over against Brentwood Academy in the next segment, and of course we got to pick winners. So why don't we just go ahead and dive right in? Let's check out those AP rankings first and foremost after that short week of week 9. It's not a ton of changes as far as movement in and out of the polls, although in 6A you did have Bradley Central and Blackman drop out. Centennial moved up to number 5, and Ravenwood moved up a spot to 8th. Oakland and Cambridge still 1 and 2.
What does Beach got to do to get into the top 10?
Win this week. It's easy now because Brentwood is right there too with getting some votes. So
yeah, 7-1 for the Buccaneers. The one loss coming early on in the season on the road at Farragut, which is in the top 10. So the only loss is to a top 10 team, and they've pretty well handled everybody else. So I agree. Beach should definitely be in the top 10.
Yeah, they'll have their chance. They got Brentwood, so they can win their way in, I believe, and should do so if they are to win that game this week. It's one of those we'll pick and who you got later on. Some of the voters took last week off too because only 12 first place votes handed out, so something else to keep in mind here. In 5A, Nolensville up to number 2. They moved ahead of Munford over there. Page is still 4th. Mount Juliet and is number 8, moving up a spot this week. Springfield just outside the top 10. Sevier County dropping out of that poll. Look at 4A real quick. Procone up 1 to 4th. Macon County holding at 6th. And DeKalb County tied for 10th with Melrose this week.
Yeah, that all 4 teams in that region that are going to make the playoffs are still in the top 10 this week.
Yep.
Another big game. I don't know if it's this week or next week that Stone plays DeKalb.
I believe that's next week. I think they all have those region games next week. In 3A, still Alcoa out in front. East Nashville number 2. Smith County up 1 to 7th, and Fairview jumps into the top 10 this week.
They climbing up the board.
Yeah, we knew that Fairview would be making they'd be making that late run.
Yep. Let's check out 2A real quick as East Robertson's win over Westmoreland didn't get any movement upwards, but they still hold at number 6. And as far as local teams go, of ours, that's it. Westmoreland did not get votes after losing to East Robertson last week. 1A, Gordonsville jumps up to that number 10 spot, replacing McEwen.
Finally. But how are they not number 9? They beat number 9 by 21.
I guess they're taking that 6-2 mark a little too seriously. So that loss to Smith County week 1 still kind of haunting them a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out though. Couple of weeks.
Yeah, those brackets will tell the story instead of the polls, and that's all that really matters here.
Right.
No changes among any of the Division 3 classes this week. CPA getting votes in Division 2 AA, but they're Friendship Christian almost unanimous, number 1 in single A. Middle Tennessee Christian 3rd, Nashville Christian number 5. Lipscomb Academy unanimous number 1 in AA, and FRA is 5th, and MBA unanimous number 1 in AAA with BA and Ensworth 4th and 5th. So you've got those 2 teams in a top 5 tangle on Thursday night, which we'll talk to Roc Batten about in just a bit.
I feel like they got those right. I think.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
the ones that were taking the week off were the ones that were kind of throwing some screwballs around there the last couple of weeks. If you had to ask me. So let's name the player of the week, shall we?
Let's shall.
Right. Player of the Week awards are presented, as always, by Miracle Auto Group in Gallatin, Miracle Ford, Miracle Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Make sure and go see the Galvins. Do a lot of good work. Cam knows that very well.
I know that very well.
Yeah, we both do.
Yeah,
We own vehicles from Miracle Auto Group.
There you go.
Absolutely.
There you go. It's extra free advertising. You didn't really know it.
Yep.
All right, let's check out our finalists. Justin Brown from Blackman had 6 receptions for 164 yards and 2 scores after that big win over Rockvale. Also had 7 total tackles on defense for the Blaze. It's Javon Drake from Laverne, that Thursday night effort against Overton, where he had 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. In that upset win, he had 20 carries for 115 yards and was 5 of 7 passing for 123 yards in that Wolverine victory. Beach's Darius Johnson on the list again, 160 yards and 2 touchdowns on 13 carries for the Bucks when they won 42-7 at Gallatin. Also had a pick 6 for Beach's defense as well. DCA's Ashton Jones, 106 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns on 4 carries. Had a 2-yard touchdown reception, 3 tackles on defense, and also had a pick 6 for the Wildcats as they buried Mount Juliet Christian 56-6. Smyrna's Thomas Jones had a kickoff return and a punt return for a touchdown, also caught 3 passes for 100 yards and a touchdown in their win over Dixon County. Chet Lax from Pope Prep, a backup quarterback for the Knights, called into play when Kenny Minchie went down earlier this year. 15 of 24 passing, 329 yards, 4 touchdowns, as Pope Prep got a big win over Knoxville Catholic, 42-35. And Friendship Christian's Tyson Wolcott, 213 yards rushing, 3 TDs on 20 carries, also had 4 tackles for the Commanders in their win at East Hamilton. So, fans, who did you guys vote for? Well, voting's in, and you guys said it was Chet Lax. So the Knights signal caller gets the fans' vote this week. Tom Duggan also casting his vote for Chet Lax. Cam, you went with Chet Lax as well.
I did. It's real simple, guys. You mentioned the word backup quarterback. Anytime a quarterback can come off the bench behind a guy like Kenny Minchie and go for 329 and 4 touchdowns, and they needed every bit of them on the road at Knox Catholic. Just an unbelievable performance by a backup quarterback in Chet Lax. It's undeniable to give it to him this week.
Scott, you went with Javon Drake.
Yeah, I thought that, against that Overton squad, they needed every bit of what Javon Drake brought. He threw passes on the money. It finally was able to get their run game going. And then, of course, he was just all the offense. And without him, they don't win that game.
It was a great performance by Drake. We were both over there on last Thursday night, so definitely see him getting a vote there. I did go with Chet Lax, though. The way he has stepped into duty for the Knights with Kenny Minchie out of the lineup, and it's kind of stabilized things for them. They've taken a couple of losses, but that offense is going to need him to keep performing at that level in order to have any shot in the playoffs, and that's a good precursor of what may be to come for the Knights. So Chet Lax, Pope Prep quarterback, is our Miracle Auto Group player of the week for week number 9. Congratulations to Chet Lax. We will get some hardware over to you very, very soon. That is it for our player of the week. Now, let's hear a word from those fine folks at Miracle Auto Group.
Hi everyone, it's Jim Galvin, Miracle Ford. Great news, beginning now. When you need service, we can come to you.
I think this program is great because as a college student who doesn't have time to go anywhere or do anything, this program really helped me just to get my car worked on. I could stay in work and continue to do my job. It's convenient, it's super quick, not expensive at all, so it's a great program. I really recommend it. Just give it a check out.
Are you ready for a miracle?
I'm gonna have to check that out because I'm about due for an oil change, and that looks awfully convenient.
There you go. Well, some news dropping before we went on the air today about the classifications for the next couple of seasons. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at those details now? TSSAA released those numbers on Tuesday for each school. The 20th day of the school year, they was the numbers that they used for those numbers. In Division I, there is no change. It's 6 even classifications based on those enrollments. Division II had defined enrollments where those schools went into a separate, depending on what number they fell out of, to get those 3 classifications. For the next 2 years, the state is going to set the region schedules. That's a change from previous seasons that we didn't know that was going to happen. Every school will play a region game week 11. That was just found out today. And as you see, the classes that will play week 11 games on Thursday next year, 1A, 3A, 5A, and single A and triple A in Division II, they will play Thursday night of week 11 next year. And then in 2024, they'll play on Friday. The other classes will play on Friday next year and then on Thursday in 2 years' time. So they're kind of trying to make it where, A, there's no rest advantage within classifications from week 11 to postseason. They all have to play the same night. And B, the official shortage obviously is still an issue, because if it wasn't, they wouldn't be doing this.
Right. That tells us that we're looking at Thursday games again next year. That the plan that they, the test that they did this year, is working for them. So that's a good plan. I agree with that. It's good to think ahead like that about making sure that everybody's on equal footing.
Yeah, and in theory, I guess you would have your better officiating crews with the games that matter the most, obviously. You can debate and discuss officials all you want to, so we're not going to do that here. But I totally see what they're getting with this, and hopefully that'll work out pretty well for them. Some dates of note. Next Monday, October 24th, schools have to declare whether they're going to play up in classification. We will know after then. Teams like Pearl Cone that played up before have to let them know by Monday if they're going to do so again. The region alignments will be determined and posted on or before November 10th, which is a week before that Board of Control meeting on the 17th. There, schools that are not happy with where they're placed, they can appeal to the state, and those appeals will be heard at that time. After that, on the 21st of November at 1 p.m. Central Time, the region schedules will be posted to the TSSAA website, and then teams can start scheduling non-region games after that point. So those are the dates to keep in mind going forward over the next month as far as the classification for the next 2 seasons is concerned. Guys, I want to bring you back in for just a second. What stands out to you about this plan so far that you've seen?
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, I'm just looking at some of the numbers, and I know that it's premature to look at who's affected and who's not, because, like you said, we have appeals and plans to move forward. But there's some shuffling around in Sumner County that looks interesting. That could be, and of course, the question is going to be, once those are, once they go through. Who's going to play up, who's going to play down, what Division II AAA is going to look like, because there's a little bit of drama there in the number of teams that could be at that level versus the teams that are now.
Yeah, to me, it's going to be really interesting not only to see the region alignments in a couple of the classifications due to if things stay the way they are right now with, we don't know who's playing up or whatnot yet. But if they stay the way they are now, some classifications will be a little bit more west heavy than east heavy. So it'll be interesting to see how those regions align. Another thing is, will there be any issues with the TSSAA doing the region schedules? The reason why I say that is you have a lot of schools, especially on the smaller side, that are used to 5 and 16 regions where they play normal rival games of county border games where they're not in the same region with TSSAA making those schedules now, will that affect some of those county games in the scheduling of those games, and will it prevent some of those games? Is the gist of it.
Yeah, I'm still wondering if we're going to be where we were this year, looking at some of these regions and going, what? I mean, will that change? Or is somebody going to have to travel to Sparta from, you know, west, west
Yeah.
of 65?
Yeah.
Me and Chris was talking about it earlier, and you have possibilities if they try to just basically base it off of the regions that we are coming from this year. By the time that you add and subtract and everything, you could have a matchup like in 2A. You might have Harpeth going to Cannon County, and that's a crazy travel distance for a region game. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do with the regions.
Yeah, let's look at some of these teams that have notably moved one way or another. We'll start with the ones that moved up. Those 3 Wilson County schools going from 5A to 6A should help Lebanon because they'll have some rivals close by instead of that 5-teamer that they were in this year and last. White House goes from 3A to 4A, and then Whites Creek and Watertown go from 2A to 3A, and from one region to possibly being in the same region again, depending on how that shakes out. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how those regions do get aligned because
pulling Watertown out of 2A could shake some things up.
Yeah.
Well, to clarify to our viewers, this is moved up right now. This is not playing up. So they will be in these classifications unless they choose to play up. One team on this list of teams that have moved up that I fully expect to play up, and that is Watertown. I fully expect Watertown to play up into 4A to be paired in that region with Macon County and Upperman and DeKalb County. More geographical sense for Watertown to do that.
Yeah.
And Procone, another one of those. They played up in the last go around. I think they'll do that again this time around if the opportunity presents itself. Those teams moving down, Beach and Hendersonville going down to 5A from 6A. Centennial would likely be in with Page and Nolensville as far as those 5A teams go. Dixon County probably in that same group. Station Camp down to 4A. And Procone right now at 3A, but again, I think they'll move up as well. Smith County and Cannon County dropping down to 2A. Could be interesting for those 2 programs.
Absolutely.
And then you look at Division II AA. I want to mention that real quick because Ensworth and Brentwood Academy have traditionally played up, and their numbers are lower than several teams in Division II AA. After I kind of looked at the numbers when they were first put out there, and if you took the teams from Ensworth Academy and Brentwood Academy's enrollments up and put them in AAA, you would have a very solid 16 to 18 team classification for AAA. But most of them are not going to do that.
Yeah, one thing that I would like to see, I don't know whether it would be in their best interest or not, but I would love to see Lipscomb Academy move up into AAA, decide to play up, because it would be really interesting to see a matchup between them and NBA, and see them play at that level, which is the top level.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, and not just for those matchups, for the ability to schedule locally too, because they've had way too many out-of-state games for my liking, honestly. You'd have NBA local, you'd have Brentwood Academy and Ensworth local, you'd have Father Ryan local, you'd have Pope Prep local. Their schedule would improve locally by a lot,
and less headache on the staff and the coaches and everything, because, like you said, you can find games. I mean, right now, they're having to manufacture games.
Yeah.
One of the other things, and I don't know, you guys tell me what this does to Gallatin. Gallatin stays at 6A, but Beach and Hendersonville go down to 5A. That's going to be interesting to see where Gallatin winds up.
I think you may see a new region formed in 6A that would include Gallatin, Green Hill, Mount Juliet, Wilson Central, and Lebanon.
Yeah, it could be a lot of the old non-AAA coming back together with that grouping. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, that would be 5 right there. That would make sense.
That would make a lot of sense.
So, but then again, we're sitting here talking about sense, and we know that the state doesn't have it.
Yeah. Since we were talking before, Chris, sense would be going back to the way they had it when it was correct, and that is 5 Division I classifications and 2 Division II classifications.
Totally agree.
That would solve all the problems.
Totally agree. Amen to that. And we can dream about it, but if they do that, those ticket prices are also going to go up too. So
I guess we're going 2025, right?
Yeah, right.
That's what we're shooting for with that one.
We can think about that, and they are supposed to discuss it again soon. But
the question is how many new schools are we going to have? Because we already have a new one coming in Clarksville. The discussions of at least 2 more coming in the next 2 years. So as Nashville continues to grow, these classifications are just going to grow.
Yeah, one thing that was a little shocking to read and look at, 6A, they have class 6A. There's a 1,300 kid difference between the smallest 6A school and the largest 6A school, while there's only a 400 kid difference between the smallest 5A and the largest 5A. So they wanted to cut down those differences, and it appears that they did not.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a good way to do it, unfortunately, because of some of the sizes of these schools. I mean, it's just a numbers standpoint. At that situation, how do you do it? I mean, you have a handful of schools with over 2,000 kids. You can't put them in their own class. There's just no good way to balance that out. Unfortunately,
or you go back 5 classifications, you take 6A would basically stay the exact same, and would be 5A, and then 5A would pretty much split with 4A. That would account for a lot of the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that needs to be discussed for sure, and a lot of fans around here are screaming about it, and honestly, we'd love to see it. But those are things that are going to come around in the next couple of weeks, as far as how those regions shake out for the next 2 years anyway. All right, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I will have a chat with Ensworth head coach Roc Batten. This is the Midstate 48, powered by Miracle Auto Group. We're back in a moment. Happy to have Ensworth head coach Roc Batten join me on the Midstate 48. Coach, glad to take some time with you this afternoon and getting ready for a big Thursday night showdown with BA.
Yes, excited to be on the show, and really, really excited about our opportunity Thursday, big game Thursday night, which would be fun. And so, we're excited, and both teams are coming in excited with a great opportunity for both teams. So,
But 6-2 coming off that open date last week. How important was having that off week at this point in the year, and how does it set you guys up for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, when you think about the season and high school football, I mean, we've gone a stretch here. When you think about just after dead period, from dead period on, it's been a long stretch and a lot going on at that time, of course. But it came at a good time for us. We need to get some guys healed up, make some corrections and adjustments from the last game. And there's no time to linger in Division II AAA. You got to get right back on and be ready for the next opportunity, next opponent, which for us is BA. And so it came at a good time for us. And like I said, a couple of things to adjust, but get some guys healed up and get a break and a little time away from football a little bit and come back, for what I consider a second half push and playoff type atmosphere and opportunity coming into this week.
And of course, BA brings in a lot of good balance offensively with their running game as strong as it is, and their quarterback developing quickly. Is there anything else that you've seen on film about that is standing out to you?
Well, definitely both, the running back and the quarterback with McIntyre and Deuce Scott. I mean, both of those kids are really talented, and they They're putting up a lot of points in the last 4 or 5 games, but their defense is really playing well as well, and getting off the field. I mean, they've done a really good job at figuring out their identity and who they are offensively and defensively, and being able to attack teams and get off the field on third downs and keep the chains moving. Deuce has been a heavy load for them, and of course McIntyre, what he does with the football and his athleticism and ability to make big throws. But they are a balanced team. They're up front on both sides of the ball. I think they're solid. I mean, they're solid all the way around. They're skilled guys and they're up front guys. They do a really good job. It's going to be a great challenge for us and a great opportunity. So we just, like I said, we're focused on us and this week and the part of last week and trying to improve from our last game and make corrections to not put ourselves in a bind is the key and protect the football. And so, but no, they're a good football team, really solid both sides of the ball, and of course they got an outstanding kicker as well. So they're a really solid football team.
I'll look back at their game against the NBA, and they got off to kind of a very slow start. How important is it going to be for you guys to get off to a fast start and not get in a bind against their defense?
Well, it's going to be really important. And I did notice that in that past game, but they battled back in that game and had a chance in that game. A couple breaks here and there. NBA made some plays, and of course Marcel made some plays. But for us, it's going to be critical for us to get off to a good start on either side of the ball, definitely offensively in terms of just keeping the chains moving and staying ahead of the chains in terms of our down and distance. And with Levi leading our offense, he's I said this to many people. He's one of the toughest kids, not the toughest kids I've ever coached, and he's just got a will and a heart, and he's a great leader. And so we put a lot on him and put a lot of put the ball in his hands to make a lot of decisions. But he also has some really good weapons and Mark Smith and Martez Cooksey in the backfield and Shamar Porter and Drew Bonner and Sean Johnson, a couple of our guys on the perimeter. So we and DeJuan Sharp. And so we got a solid group. We got to have we got a solid game plan and got to finish the week off before we get to Thursday. But it's about executing our offense and keep the chains moving. And then on defense, not giving up the big plays and get Deuce Scott on the ground, but not giving up the big plays because they have big playability and they will grind you with the way they run the ball. So we got to tackle well and give our offense opportunities on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'll look at your offense, and of course some of my notes here. Obviously, Mark Smith, Martez Cooksey, both of them averaging over 7 yards a carry. Their efficiency this year in the touches they do get, how big has that been for this offense and just keeping it balanced?
It's been huge. I mean, they're both different. They give us a different look, the way they run the ball. Both of them are different and unique, but they're both, tough kids. I mean, Mark has the ability to take it to distance anytime he touches it, and so does Martez. Martez is such a strong runner, has been so efficient for us all year long on both sides of the ball. But they give us a different dynamic that like I say, we hadn't had in a while in terms of our, the combination. And our offensive line has done a solid job as well up front, and we've been really steady there, kind of led by Caleb Doris and Braylon Morris and Dylan Hudson, 3 seniors for us who have battled with us and opened some of those holes up for our running backs and protect Levi as well. So that would be key in this game for us to run the ball and get the ball in our playmakers' hands so they can create things for us.
Yeah, Drew Bonner has really kind of emerged this year, actually down to the leading receiver on the team as far as receptions are concerned. I mean, what's his emergence meant to Levi and having another option and to you having another weapon out there?
No, he's sure-handed. He's one of these guys who knows every position on the field. He's like having another quarterback, but Drew's just very efficient. He's a tough kid. He's a smart football player. Understands what we're trying to accomplish offensively, understands the system and understands when he catches the ball about getting vertical. And if the ball is close in the area, he's got a chance, he's going to make a play on it. And so he's been a great piece for us to have and another outlet for Levi to spread the ball to. And that's what our offense is about. It's about spreading the ball to multiple guys. And, of course, Shamar is the center of that for us. What he brings to the table in terms of his athleticism and his ability is outstanding. But having a Drew Bonner and a DeJuan Sharp and a Sean and Zayden and Will Garner, having some of these other guys on the perimeter, just gives us some opportunities and some weapons for us.
Yeah, when Carvis, everybody knows about Levi Moore and his ability and his talent. He had a lot of spotlight coming onto him this year. How has he handled that, and how do you think he's kind of grown as a quarterback this season?
He's cool and calm, man. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He has this very cool demeanor about him, this presence. But when he speaks, everyone listens, and he's handled it well. I mean, quarterback is the position we all know that when things go right, you get all the praise, and when things don't go as well, he's the guy everybody wants to blame, and he handles all of that unbelievably, and is continue to work and get better and work on his craft and lead our program and lead our team. I mean, we had to throw him in there as a young sophomore early a couple years ago, and just watching where he's come from his sophomore year to his senior year in terms of the poise and how he operates has been just exciting to see. And we're anticipating him to have a big night for us on Thursday and continue to orchestrate this offense as the field general for us. But it's been exciting because he handles it with a lot of poise and a lot of charisma and with a huge line of toughness with it.
Well, given the way this region has worked itself out, it's a great opportunity for your kids to clinch region title, get the #1 seed, and play home playoff games the whole way through. What would that mean to be able to accomplish all that by win Thursday night?
That would be huge, and obviously we'll have still more to do going to Briarcrest the week after, but it would put us in the driver's seat for sure. And obviously clinching the region, which we've been, as a goal for ours in terms of taking care of the region and having an opportunity to be a 1 seed in the field, home field advantage, which is huge in the playoffs. All those things are huge for us, and the big thing is taking care of business at home against BA. Like I said, I think this will be a electric atmosphere. It's going to be a fun game. A lot of big time players on both teams, and so as a high school kid, high school young man, if you want to play high school football in that type of atmosphere, this would be a lot of fun. And our young men understand the opportunity at hand with this game and what it means for down the road in playoffs as well. So, but we're going in just ready to take care of work and bring our hard hat and execute our offense and defense and special teams and take advantage of opportunities that presents itself.
And I'm looking forward to getting over there Thursday night and seeing it. Should be a really good one, Coach. I appreciate the time, and good luck to you guys this weekend. I know we'll talk Thursday night as well.
Yes, thanks so much. I really appreciate it and everything you guys are doing for high school football, and it'll be an electric night on Thursday night here.
All right, appreciate it. All right, we obviously want to thank Coach Batten for hopping on with us this week and talking some ball and getting ready for Thursday night, a big one over there at Ensworth. Something that we saw last week, Scott, both you and I, and Cam, you too, we all saw two similar plays that could have ended a lot worse than they did. Of course, our games were both in Sumner County. Scott, you had yours at Gallatin, mine at Westmoreland. I'm going to show this play from the Gallatin game with quarterback Luke Cook and what obviously got him knocked out of the game real quick. We'll show that play to you real quick. It's outside here on the scramble, heads out of bounds. It's hit and driven into that brick wall. It's a late hit, and it was flagged as such, but
it wasn't a malicious late hit. I truly believe that Luke Cook he decelerated, and the defensive player was coming full speed, and there's a very limited area there between the sideline and the brick wall, and so it's unfortunate that yes, was he hit? late, yes, but it wasn't malicious, and it wasn't intentional in my view. It was just unfortunate because when a player checks up like that and you're coming at him, then you're going to run through him. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's not the story, though. The late hit.
No.
What we're talking about is safe sideline distances. Chris, tell me what you saw at Westmoreland or Cam.
Yeah, I know that there was an East Robertson player that got knocked out of bounds at Westmoreland and into a chain link fence that was right behind the visitor sideline.
Yeah, if anybody's ever been to Westmoreland, Westmoreland's field, it is it's not proportional. The home sideline has a pretty good distance between, the get back line and the fence and the bleachers. The visitor sideline does not. If you say you had a team like Lebanon played Westmoreland, all their kids would not be able to stand on the sideline. Which is not safe. Is the fence. I 100% agree with having a fence to keep the spectators out and the players in. I'm 100%. That's not the point here. The point is you have to have enough room between the playing surface and the fence to protect the kids. We talk about all these rules changes that's going on in the high school, college, and pro level about protecting players. I believe that it is important that we not only do so with restraints on hitting, but also with our conditions around our field environment. 2 instances this week, both in Sumner County, but it happens in more than just Sumner County, guys. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing like a track distance between the players and the fence or the stands.
Well, looking at trying to see if there was a regulation for this, and there's really not, because I mean, even in the college, Oklahoma State is well known for having a very narrow sideline, and they've had players injured before. In fact, it's become so much so that it's actually a tactical advantage for Oklahoma State. But the American Society of Testing Materials stated the following in their natural and artificial playing fields characteristics and safety features. The first one was that the sidelines shouldn't have any permanent markers or pylons. So they don't have that. Yeah, everybody has replaced their flags and everything else like that. So there's no trip hazards there. But the second one is that the sidelines should have players' benches no closer than 6.1 meters or 20 feet. Benches no more than 20 feet. That's 20 feet that at least to a bench from the sideline. The third part is that the sideline should have equipment, refreshment, and emergency equipment no closer than 30 feet. So you're talking about recommendations of at least 30 feet of distance between the sideline and any of that equipment, which means that the barrier needs to really be beyond that. The fence needs to be beyond that, so 35 feet. Now, I realize that, this is a costly thing. Stadiums cost money. But I think TSSAA needs to take the lead in looking at a regulation for this. Look at a regulation for this and then provide guidelines for it and a timeline for it, so that they give small, because not every county can afford a new field. So you've got to allow a timeline for it. And then after the timeline and after you designate, that way everybody can work towards it in a certain timeline. Because what's going to happen eventually is you're going to have somebody slam into one of these sideline brick walls or into a post holding up a fence, and somebody's going to break their neck. And then you're going to be facing, like the study that I looked at, which was a $47 million judgment for a kid that unfortunately is a quadriplegic because he hit a post in the out of bounds area.
Yeah.
Again, we're not harping on the schools themselves, guys. It's out of their control. TSSAA has to take the lead here, and the whole stance on this is not about going against the schools. It's about player safety, guys. It's all about player safety.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, the schools need help. The schools need guidance on this, and then or at least a study to understand. And if moving the fence back is not an option, we have to look at other options. Whether it, I don't know how much padding would help. I don't know that it would, because when you're talking about moving that fast to stopping that quickly, I don't know, and I'm not an expert. But it's something that I think TSSAA needs to review and needs to do it sooner than later.
And there's a lot of these stadiums that are older, obviously, that have this situation, that don't have a track around them, or have just been there for a long time. Now, I look at a school like Springfield, for instance, that had a similar situation at its old field before it moved to their new complex just a few short years ago. They were obviously fortunate enough to get a new field over at the school, but they played at Boy Smith Field for a long time. Schools like Westmoreland, like Macon County, like Gordonsville, like Gallatin, that don't have either are not on campus or are very old stadiums that don't have a lot of infrastructure available to move things around. They've got to take a long, hard look at this, because it's only going to take one player getting severely injured for this to finally spark some change. I'm not against these old stadiums, don't get me wrong here, but is it worth it to have the stands that close to the field? I don't think it is. I really don't. And in Gallatin's case, it's a brick wall. It's a brick wall that is not going to give like a chain link fence does.
Yeah, and that's one of the older stadiums in our area.
And that's not. And again, this is not a knock on Gallatin, their football team, or their school. It's what they're provided. It's what. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that, to Chris's point, you better be thinking about it now and planning for it now, because eventually it's going to create a problem. Yeah.
And just looking back at that clip, because the way the players are now, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. It's only going to take one bad instance to really spark a lot of change. And these conversations have got to start happening now. I get the idea of having that nostalgia and having a traditional, a classic stadium and the environment it provides. But we got to weigh that against the safety of the players, first and foremost, because let's face it, these are still high school kids. This is still high school football. High schools are responsible for those kids' safety. And anybody that has this attitude of suck it up, buttercup, or whatever, had better remember that, especially if they're involved in high school sports. It's a shame. But hopefully those incidents can shed a light on what's going on with these stadiums and maybe get the conversations going in the right direction, because it just needs to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Enough on those sobering notes. Let's take one more quick break, and then we will get into who you got and pick some winners. This is the Midstate 48, powered by Miracle Auto Group. We're back in just a moment.
Are you ready? Are you ready for a miracle?
Wait! With current economic conditions, how do you find a deal? Pre-order and build it your way, then get 5% off MSRP, but only when you pre-order now. New 2023 Jeep Gladiator and Jeep Grand Cherokee L. Jeep Adventure Days at Miracle Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Gallatin. Build it your way to get 5% off MSRP.
Are you ready for a miracle?
All right. It is that time of the week again for us to pick some winners. It is who you got. Pull these standings up and look at week 9 real quick. One quick note here. There was an issue with the fan voting last week. And so with that said, I just went ahead and gave them my record. to kind of be sort of pseudo fair to them. So they got 9-1 as well as I did. And it's still pretty tight at the top. Cam's 3 games back, and Scott's tied with him again after last week. So I can't seem to get away from these guys. Let's go back over those Week 9 picks real quick and see where we went wrong. Well, we went wrong on Thursday night. All of us did. Yep. Laverne kept me from a perfect week. Reggie lost on Thursday with his Whites Creek pick, and then also lost the Rockville pick to Blackman.
He's a rebel.
We were split on Portland to Station Camp, and the Portland side lost. Reggie dropped Siegel against Stewart's Creek, and half of us went with Westmoreland and the other half East Robertson. So that's how Week 9 turned out. But mostly good numbers all around. As for overall picks for the year, well, losing 2, 3, 4 games a week isn't bad at all. So kudos to everybody.
Gosh, 24-4, and I still lost 2 games to you.
Well, it is what it is, Scott. It is what it is.
Well, if it wasn't, what would it be?
Let's get into Week 10, shall we? Thursday night, we've got Smyrna McGavick, and here goes Reggie again with those upset picks. He's taking the Raiders over Smyrna, and the rest of us are on the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think this is a tough game for McGavick. It's another tough defense. But I think Smyrna's offense here is going to be able to put some points on the board against McGavick, and that defense is going to do a lot to shut down that McGavick offense.
I really like the back half of that Smyrna defense. I also look for Aaron Carter to have a big game.
I think that Smyrna defense puts points on the board because they've been doing that as of late several times in the last month or so. Brentwood at Beach, and arguably what I thought was the toughest game to pick this week. I did side with the Buccaneers at home, and so did everybody else. But this was one of the it's one of the better games of this week, even though it's not a region game.
It is. Go ahead, Scott.
No. You go.
It is one of the most overlooked games of the week for sure, as both of these teams have been overlooked throughout the season. But I believe that the sleeping giant comes out this week. I like Beach to win by a couple scores at least. Before we came on the air, I was telling you, Chris, they are just cool, calm, collected. They got more than one guy that can tote the rock. They got more than one guy that can carry the load and perform every week. And their defense is really good. Same thing with Brentwood. Beach's offense is a little bit more proven than Brentwood's. So I like Beach.
Well, Bronco Hanks told us last week that they had this game circled, that they wanted this was a revenge game for them. And I agree with Cam. I think these are 2 top-notch defenses. So now you got to look at the offense. Which offense is most likely to break away? Well, give me Darius Johnson and his breakaway speed. That's why I picked Beach.
I do believe that defense travels, and I was very close to picking Brentwood in this game. I could reasonably see this as a playoff preview. Now, given that this could only happen in the semifinals, the way the Western half of 6A is shaking out right now, these 2 teams could end up there, given all that's happened in the second half of the season. Just never know. Green Hill at Station Camp, a key game in 5A for the Hawks anyway to ensure a playoff spot, and this is really Station Camp's last stand. They've got to have this one. Reggie does side with the Bison, but the rest of us are on the Hawks.
Big win last week for Station Camp over Portland is try to pretty much get things righted. Green Hill, both of these teams Green Hill needs it. Station Camp's got to have it. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bison pull out every trick in the book to try to get a win. I just like Green Hill to get it done and set up that huge game next week with Mount Juliet.
Well, Station Camp has some tremendous linebackers in Sanders Ellis and Fisher Pine, and that has done a number on rushing games. I think the key to this game is going to be Caleb Carver. He can score from anywhere. They've got to get Green Hill's got to get the ball out in space to him. But I think that this game is probably really close, maybe a 1-score game. And I think the difference in this game is Caleb Carver. if they kick to him, they'll regret it.
I'm kind of on the opposite side of that just a little bit because I don't know that Green Hill wants this to be a one-score game because they have not fared nearly as well in close games as they did last year. They would like to arguably put this away by a couple of scores or more, but we'll see about that. I did pick the Hawks anyway. Independence at Page. This one was one that Page lost last year while they were cruising on the way to a playoff berth. They would like to get some revenge on the Eagles from Independence. Scott, you've taken the Eagles, and the rest of us are on the Patriots, so I'll let you start it.
Yeah, I just feel like, Independence, for all their being snake bit by injuries, they've played a really tough schedule. This was a very, very tough game for me to call. I know Paige has had a week to recharge and reflect, but I think the Eagles are going to do just enough to win this game. I look for them to throw and throw often.
Yeah, if the Eagles are to be victorious, it's going to be because of Brooks Sapone and what he's able to do on the offensive side of the ball. Not knocking Trey Hartwell at all, as he's a great running back, but I just like this Page team to rebound after that Nolensville loss. Real senior heavy team with Max Collins, Colin Hurd, the Boy Smith. They showed up against Nolensville. They just had a couple things steamroll them, late in that game that led the Knights to victory. This should be a good ball game, but I like the Patriots.
Yeah, I like the Page defense and the way they handled the run against Nolensville. Samson Johnson did not get going all that well until the very end of the game. Independence will feed Trey Hartwell and feed him a lot. So I expect that to be kind of a lower scoring game here. A lot like the way Independence and Centennial played early in the season. Hopefully they won't get cut down by storms and have to play on Saturday. But I do think that Independence will keep this very close. But I do like Page's ability to throw the ball just a little bit better with Colin Hurd at quarterback there. I'm taking the Patriots there. Lipscomb Academy at CPA. Now, this game was not all that intriguing until a couple of weeks ago when CPA knocked off Oakland and it raised some eyebrows around the area, including those over there down the road at Lipscomb. It didn't raise ours enough. We all go on the Mustangs this week. Cam, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, great performance a couple weeks ago by CPA over Oakland. But as you said, it definitely got everybody where everybody was kind of like, Lipscomb's going to walk the dog the rest of the year. I believe that that win for CPA definitely got Coach Dilfer and this Mustang team refocused on the CPA team as they met twice last year, once in the regular season and then once for the Gold Ball in December. Just too much offense is what it comes down to for me. CPA's got a great defense. They beat Oakland with physicality. Lipscomb's more of a finesse team. I think CPA is going to have a hard time scoring as well. I like Lipscomb.
Well, you talked about offense. I want to talk about defense for Lipscomb right now. They're only giving up 6.5 points per game. They're allowing only 25% of third down conversions. They're giving up 2.2 yards per rush, only allowed 3 rushing scores on the year. They are plus 10 on turnovers. They have 13.5 sacks. Edwin Spillman, 65.5 tackles. Brian Longwell has 4.5 sacks. I mean, this team is absolutely loaded on defense. And, I'm very interested in the battle between London Humphreys and Caleb Beasley. I think that's going to be a battle for the ages. I just think that Lipscomb just has too much for CPA defensively in this game.
Lipscomb Academy has a little bit of history to buck too, because with this game being at CPA, they have not won at CPA since 2009. It's been a while. So something else that they can check off that box. Lipscomb Academy's defense is the reason I've got them winning this game, but I don't know that they will win it by all that much. CPA has definitely improved in the second half of the season after that slow start that they've had. But I do like Lipscomb Academy to win that game somewhat convincingly.
Yeah, if CPA is to keep it close and have a chance to win it, the rushing game with Cruz Law and being able to control the clock is going to be the difference.
Yep. Totally agree with that. On to page 2 is Macon County and Smith County. This is a non-region game in theory, but for all intents and purposes, it's a region game for the Tigers because the way Region 4-4A is shaking out right now, that total wins tiebreaker is going to come into play. They've got to win this game to have any shot of keeping that region title in sight. We are all taking the Tigers, however, to win in Carthage. Scott, why don't you start us?
Yeah, I'll be there. It's our fan game of the week, Macon County at Smith County. I'm looking forward to this matchup. It's really size versus speed. You got Gabe Borders, the all-around straw that stirs the drink. He can score from anywhere. He can put 6 on you from the ticket booth. I mean, absolutely, stellar kid. And defensively, they're tough. But Smith County is big, country big. I mean, they are stout. It's really going to be interesting. I just think Macon has a little too much firepower, and that it's that they're going to be able to move the ball with Kyle Shockley, and get out in front and stay there.
Yeah, there's one word that comes to mind when I think of this matchup, guys, and it's a very strong word, but I think it's accurate. Hate. These two teams hate each other. These two counties hate each other. And it stems from a long time ago. Kind of a funny backstory to this one, though. Coach Dyer graduated from Smith County. His dad was an assistant coach at Macon County when he graduated. Coach Dyer gets his start coaching at Macon County. And now the head coach at Smith County. So that's a pretty interesting backstory to go along with this week. But you hit it right on the head, Scott. Gabe Borders is a difference maker in this one. I really like the freshman quarterback for Smith County, and I love their size. But if it comes down to it, I just think Macon can outscore them.
Another thing to really look at here is their next game. Smith County has that game against East Nashville Week 11. Macon County has a game they can win with their backups in against Cumberland County. The Tigers probably will just empty the tank here and give it everything they've got to win it, given that a region title is in sight. And I see Macon County winning just kind of for that reason, because this is it for them. If they lose this game, they're not winning the region unless something insanely crazy happens Week 11. But
well, here's the thing. Not only a loss from the Tigers would not only possibly cost them a region championship, it costs them a home playoff game. Yeah. They don't finish second if they don't win it. They drop all the way to third.
They would need to have Upperman and Stoneman both lose next week.
Right, man, that's unlikely.
That's very unlikely. So Tigers will empty the tank this week, and I like them to get the win because of it. On to the next one, Portland at Springfield. Portland's still unbeaten in region play. Springfield dropped one to Henry County a couple of weeks ago. But we like the Yellow Jackets to get back on track here, as we've all taken Springfield in this one. Scott?
If Devin Crenshaw's back, that's going to be the key. I think Portland will stay with them if Devin Crenshaw, and as much of a part of that offense as he is. If he doesn't play, Portland has a really good chance of winning this game. But with Devin Crenshaw in there for Springfield, it is a very, very different offense with him in there. And I just think that'll be the difference right there.
I definitely think that that's accurate. If Crenshaw plays, I like Springfield pretty comfortably, honestly. If he don't play, though, I believe the defense for Springfield and the athletes that they have, Camarion Flair and a couple of the other ones, are good enough to beat Portland.
Yeah, I agree with that, Cam. I'll second that sentiment. Ravenwood at Pope Prep. It's kind of a story of two teams in similar directions. They both had a stud quarterback start the year. Both their quarterbacks got hurt. Now they're playing with backup signal callers in a game that still has a lot of skill. It just doesn't have a lot of luster with those quarterbacks out. We're kind of split here, as Tom and Reggie are on Ravenwood, and the rest of us are on Pope Prep. Well, unfortunately, Tom's not on the show this evening, so I'll take this one. I'm going with Pope Prep simply because I think the skill players for the Knights are just a little bit better on the outside. There's still a lot of talent with Elijah Robb in the backfield, Josh Maylander, and what Chet Lax has to throw to. And the reason Chet Lax is our player of the week is because of his development and the big game he had last week. Ravenwood's going to put up one heck of a fight, and their defense is pretty good, so I expect this to kind of still be a lower scoring game. But the Knights do have enough power to take advantage of any mistakes Ravenwood makes.
Yeah, I like the defensive backs of Pope Prep, Josh Maylander. He's a difference maker back there. I agree with you. I think the development of Chet Lax is the story here. Before we saw what he could do last week, I probably would have leaned towards Ravenwood. They're going to have a big night. And I don't even know if their backup, Cartua Chapman, if he's back this game, because he went out late in their last game. So their running game's going to have to carry them. I just think Pope Prep has too much firepower for the Raptors.
Yeah, talking about taking air out of a balloon, man. You know, preseason, a lot of people would have been looking at this one saying, that's Kenny Minchie versus Chris Parson. And then here we are, the way high school football and any football goes. Injuries have happened. I will second what you said, Scott. If it wasn't for Chet Lax's performance last week against Knoxville Catholic, I'm probably going Ravenwood in this game. And solely because of if Ravenwood wins this game, I can tell you why Tom picked them is because of Carter Pace and that rushing attack. But with the surgence of Chet Lax, I think Pope Prep outscores Ravenwood.
Yeah. This should still be a pretty good game despite the star power being missing from it, but it just won't have the luster that it once would have. Cam, you're spot on about that. Riverdale at East Nashville. Now, this one is another one of those non-region games that has an intrigue to it because it's a 3A East Nashville team against a 6A Riverdale team. And Scott, you're on Riverdale as well as Reggie, but the rest of us are taking the Eagles. Why don't you start us off?
Well, I like Riverdale in this game because of one, their depth, and two, I think that East Nashville is really the game after this is a game for them, the Smith County game. They can't. Riverdale's defense is tough, and I don't expect East Nashville to fold. But let me tell you, if Riverdale gets out and it gets to be a physical game, I don't know if East Nashville wants to risk anything going into the playoffs. I just think that. Also, I think this is Riverdale's chance to really flex.
It is Riverdale's chance to prove that they're still Riverdale. However, East Nashville has been on a mission this year. And that's why I like the Eagles to get it done at home and really continue to build that momentum into the big game next week against Smith County.
This one was one that East Nashville had circled from last year, just like all the others that they lost from last year, and they've taken care of business in all of those. The way that East Nashville has played in all of those games, they've not been close. They've whipped everybody they've had to get revenge on. I don't know that they whip Riverdale, but the way East Nashville has played lately, I'm not picking against them until further notice. I'm going East Nashville for now and the foreseeable future. That leads us to our spotlight game with Brentwood Academy and Ensworth on Thursday night. We talked to Coach Batten about that one a little earlier in this show. And we have Brentwood Academy across the board except for Reggie. I wonder why that might be. Well, let's see what Reggie has up his sleeve this week.
The prognosticat, Reggie. Release the cat. Here he comes. He's sniffing around. He's made his pick. And he has picked the Tigers.
That was swift and decisive.
Something about the feline family, man.
And he hates birds.
Listen. The way he has been with these cat picks this year, can we change our pick? Is it too late to do that? Because
No.
I'm a little concerned now. He might be on something again.
He may do it. I tell you, it was tough for me to make a decision here. You know, contrary to popular belief, I did not consult him, as you can tell. But I know some people think that I talk to the cat, and I do, but not about pigs.
Yep.
We talk about politics. But yeah, when it came down to it, it just came down to the defense of Brentwood Academy. That to me, because I think both offenses are stellar. I think they both have good quarterbacks. They both have good running backs. So I had to look at the defense, and I just think Brentwood's defense is just a hair better than Ensworth's, and I think that'll make the difference.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with both teams having good defense, good offenses. The player, to me, the reason why I picked BA in this game, George McIntyre. Deuce Scott has been the guy for them this year, but George McIntyre is quietly sliding under the radar. He's quietly sliding under the radar for casual fans, but anybody that knows, he's committed to Tennessee, I'm pretty sure. I know he at least has an offer from Tennessee. As a sophomore, he was on campus on Saturday for the big win over Alabama. This BA team is going, if they don't show it in the playoffs next year, they're going to be a pass-first team. George McIntyre is the difference in this ball game. He gets it done, and Brentwood Academy wins a close game.
To me, the pressure is squarely on Ensworth's defense to get Deuce Scott on the ground. And if they don't get him down quickly, he's going to wear them down as this game goes on. If he gets 20 to 25 carries, that's a good thing for Brentwood Academy. If he doesn't, then that means BA's behind. So Deuce Scott, to me, I think that the magic number is 20. He gets 20 carries, Brentwood Academy should be in good shape. All right, let's go back over these picks real quick before we get out of here for this week. Smyrna McGavick. Reggie's on McGavick. The rest of us are on the Bulldogs. Brentwood at Beach. We've all taken the Buccaneers. Green Hill and Station Camp. Reggie has the Bison. The rest of us are on the Hawks. Scott's got Independence over Page. The rest of us have the Patriots. We are all in Lipscomb Academy over CPA. We've all picked Macon County and Springfield to win their respective games. Tom and Reggie have Ravenwood over Pope Prep. The rest of us are on the Knights. Scott and Reggie have Riverdale over East Nashville. The rest of us are riding with the Eagles. And speaking of Eagles, 4 out of 5 of us have Brentwood Academy. Reggie is going with the Tigers of Ensworth. And that is that for who you got. Before we get out of here, guys, let's go with one more word from both of you. Scott, why don't you start us?
Well, if you see behind me, you'll see the Midstate 48 shirts. You can see this side over here. Well, nope, over here. Can't ever get that right. How will you spend your 48? This one's got the 48 minutes. This is the back of it. 48 minutes of grit, pain, effort. 48 minutes of victory. These are made by the Scent Shack, and they are $25 a piece. If you're interested in purchasing them, they come in the sport gray, a dark gray, and a sand. But the main reason that I'm bringing this up to you, besides the fact that you can purchase those, is that Scent Shack is also a new sponsor for us. Actually, they're not a new sponsor. They sponsored us last year, but they're on board again for this year. So, like all our sponsors, the Galvins with Miracle Ford, Innovate Medical, Gas Tight. I'm sorry. Gallery over here was trying to remind me of somebody. Who?
Fifth Gear.
Thank you. Fifth Gear Technology Concepts. Thank you. I had that written down. I was trying to go off my head. But all these people, make sure that you go to their websites. Make sure that you buy their products. They support high school sports, and they support us, and we would be much appreciated. And if you buy from them, let them know where you heard from them.
All right.
Yeah, and on top of that, sort of piggybacks off that a little bit. I had a couple people kind of cracked jokes at me about picking that Westmoreland and East Robertson game wrong, and they one person said, "I hope they don't pay you very much," and I just thought it would be a nice thing to tell everyone that guys, none of us get paid on this show. All the money goes back into production and into us going to Chattanooga to cover these state championship games for you guys. And again, all that content is free to you guys because our sponsors allow us to do that. We do not get paid to do this, guys. We do this for the kids and because we love football. Same reason why fans go watch games on Friday nights when they have no affiliation to the school or the players. On to the next thing for me. Light week last week for us. Guys, it's time. This week, next week, really. There's so many big games that have huge playoff implications. Some you might as well just say the playoffs start next week for a lot of teams.
Well said, Cam. And it's funny that you mentioned Chattanooga because those state championships aren't very far away. And something that I want to touch on before we get out of here, if you haven't been under a rock the last couple of days, the Titans in the city of Nashville have agreed in principle to building a new dome stadium next to where Nissan Stadium is. And it got me thinking that maybe one of these days that the state championships could be back in Nashville. But then I remembered why the city of Nashville hasn't been bidding on these in the last few years in the first place. The way Nashville has grown over the last decade plus, it's become a big event town. And when you're dealing with the Titans, when you're dealing with anything sports-wise in Nashville, you've got to deal with the Sports Authority and the the Visitors Bureau. My question is, do they think that the high school state championship games are enough of a big event to want to lose hotel rooms for a weekend over that? And the answer I came up with was no. And part of that is because they would rather have a lot of concerts and they would rather have that weekend for concerts or events than to lose those hotel rooms to people who may not use them. And while I would love to see the state championship games in Nashville because A, it's close to me, I don't have to travel and could be able to sleep in my own bed covering those, I'm just not sure Nashville's going to want to bid. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But until they prove otherwise, don't look for these state championship games to be in Nashville anytime soon. I think the Cookville's going to wind up being the host again before too much longer because they outbid Chattanooga last time. If it wasn't for the red tape that they had to go through with their video boards, they would have had the games anyway, so we wouldn't even be going to Chattanooga in the first place. I think we'll be headed back to Cookville for the championship games very soon, possibly as early as next year. The bids are going to be back up again in the spring, and we'll see how those go. But Chattanooga was a great experience. I just don't know that we're going to be going back there beyond 2022, but we'll see. And we will see you guys Saturday morning on the 615 Prep scoreboard because that's all the damage we can do for a week. So why don't we get out of here and tell you to have a great week. Enjoy the football on Thursday and Friday night. We will see you Saturday and right back here at the same time next week. So for Tom Duggan, who couldn't make it this week, unfortunately, for Cam, for Scott, I'm Chris. We're out. We will see you on Saturday morning.
Somebody hit Dixieland Delight.
I knew you were going to do that. Take care, everybody.